After over a decade of living in London, we decided we'd had enough and we emigrated to New Zealand. We found this perfect piece of land on the edge of a small beach town. Initially we looked at tiny houses, but they were pretty expensive, so we bought this old 1968 bus instead. The bus leaked a bit, so I decided to build a roof over it, which would give us some shelter from the weather and would be a good way to catch some rainwater to drink. The first step was to move the bus into a sunny position with the best views.
Keep going. Keep going.
I then got all of the wood and roofing material delivered. This is day one of the build. It's important that the holes that are going through here are at right angles to this cut, so that when the bolts go through, this is straight and the post is straight. I've got this, and that just gives me a little bit of a guide, so I can guide through the holes, so those two holes will line up, the two holes on here. I'm putting these metal plates inside the wooden posts, which I will then bolt onto giant metal screws that have already been fixed into the ground. A big advantage with this system is that if I ever choose to move the bus or the roof, I can just unbolt these posts and the screw piles in the ground can be taken out and reused.
It'll do something.
This thing weighs a ton.
Alright, go down the hill. Spinning your end. Spinning your end.
I have to do a little bit of work.
You got it?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I saved us half a journey there.
Good. Alright.
Once we got the post upright, I just had to attach the bolts, and then I'm also driving in some wooden pegs into the ground here, just to give the post a bit more stability while we set things up. Now that looks alright.
I don't know what all the rags and girls say about you, but you definitely don't have any problems getting it up.
Just need another man to come round and help.
Rough enough is good enough. Get a rail up on this side.
These posts are new and therefore wet, so they are pretty heavy, a lot heavier than they look. We're just struggling to get this up here and then find the screw pile. Put that in there.
Down there, right? Beautiful.
Wait, the one what I used to tell me. Now that all four posts are up, I just need to attach a string line to one end, put a spirit level on it, and then mark off each post and cut them all at exactly the same height. That goes to yarn, about right there. Here I'm cutting out a notch for the beams to sit on. For the beams I'm using two 2x8s joined together.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure you do.
It's perfect fit for me.
Just need some cleaning up, obviously.
Yeah. Oh.
Get back in here, eh? Back up, back up. Just... Close. I'm going to go over the other side of it, or do I okay then?
Beautiful. Right, that's 430 to the end.
430?
430 is the centre.
Okay, so yeah, you want that. Look, yeah, clean from your tool belt. So elegant, so elegant.
Ah, so elegant. Like a trapeze artist. Why does that look so wrong?
Because
Because it is.
oh, right. Because it's got a bow in the
Oh,
other
hold
one.
on.
The other one's got a bow in it.
Oh, it is. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's all right then. So at least we know. So if we come back and then I'll just bend
Gently with your gumboot. Okay.
Ah,
Yeah,
you've done this
Not-
shit.
not-
Done this stuff before.
Mm.
Once we had the 2x8 beam up there, I just had to get a level, make sure it's straight before drilling a hole so I could bolt the beam to the post.
It's not cabinet. It's a belt. It's a bus umbrella. It's a giant bus umbrella. Hold on, I'll get up to you. Now one edge had to go up, hey, there was a rough edge on it.
It doesn't matter, does it?
Okay.
I don't know.
No, I think it's right, they go up.
What to go up? What the hand on
Yeah,
is up
yeah.
on the high bit. This is probably not the safest way to do things, climbing up a ladder with a piece of wood that's 16 feet long. But we didn't have a scaffolding rig or anything like that. We just had this ladder, so we made do. Not the best way, but we got it done. The next day, my friend wasn't about, but I thought I'd give it a go and see if I could get one of these into place by myself. Building by yourself is definitely a bit tricky, but I really like it. There's something very satisfying about making your own structure. I'm using ratchet straps here to hold the wood in place, so I'm lifting it up, tightening it up one side before going over to the other side, lifting that a bit higher, and then tightening that one up. Probably wouldn't do that again. On a kind of scale of stupidity, from mildly stupid to utterly moronic, I think that's somewhere in between the two. I mean, it wasn't... Having the ratchet straps helps. You know that you're not going to drop the thing. I mean, it's a 2x8, so it's pretty chunky. And it's just sort of nearly 5 meters long, so it's a bit of a beast to get into position. And it's quite high up. So, yeah, it's much better doing it with somebody else. It also takes a lot less time with somebody else. It was a good experience anyway. I'm glad I got it up. And it's good to have that first beam done. I'm building a single pitched roof, and so the roof on this side of the bus needs to be quite a bit higher than that on the other side. And I don't want to be that high up in the air on ladders with a chainsaw trying to cut the posts and cut the notches. It just seems way too dangerous. So I borrowed this laser level, which is an awesome piece of kit. So this basically allowed me to work out the height of the ground at the exact point I was putting each post, and that meant I could do all of the cuts on the ground, which was a hell of a lot safer. All of the other posts went on in the same method, and so once that was done, it was time to get on with some bracing.
If you put a post in by itself, obviously it can wobble around all over the place. You connect a post with a beam like that, it gets a bit stronger, but it can still drift out of square. It can still go like that or like that with the wind. The way to stop that is to brace it, to put a diagonal support in there to there. That makes that a little bit stronger. Up here we get a bit of wind, and I've got no walls to stop that wind getting onto the roof, so bracing is essential. So I'm just going to play around and make the strongest possible bracing situation I can while still being able to open doors and get on and off the deck. That's the plan for today. It's going to be a scorcher as well.
I bought some 4x4s to use as bracing. I'm just going to make these to be quite small braces, a kind of knee brace that will join the post to the beam overhead. I want this bracing to have a really secure fixing, so I'm marking out where I want the screws to go, and then I'm pre-drilling the holes. One of the issues with working with this round timber rather than the normal square post that you might use is that they're slightly harder to get stuff to fix to the sides of them. So I'm just chiseling out a kind of flat area on the side here, and that will give me something easy for the bracing to fix to. Getting these braces to fit in exactly the right place and cutting out a notch for them to go into was actually quite tricky, so it took a little bit of trial and error.
Man, I am beat. That was exhausting. There's a lot of playing around there. You can figure out where you need to make your cut to put the post in by using triangulation. I didn't work it out, I'm no good at maths, but I just used a calculator, so you can figure it out. But even then, it's only a rough estimate because the post varies in thickness, the depth of your cut varies, and there's also, anyway, there's a little bit of playing around to do to get it right. So there's a lot of putting it in, taking it out, cutting, chiseling, putting it back. Do that a few times and it's exhausting. So anyway, whatever, it's finished, so that's good. I'm weather beaten, sunburnt, and had quite enough, but I'm really happy it's finished. On the other side, I'm going to do some X braces, so they'll be like top to bottom. But anyway, that's for another day. But for now, that's going to give it a lot more rigid strength. So yeah, it'll protect from getting damaged in the wind. It was a good day, but man, I'm knackered. A mile over your head. Long way. I decided to cut birds' mouths to allow the rafters to sit neatly on top of the beams. It's arguable as to whether this is necessary, but I wanted to do it as I felt it would give the whole structure just a little bit more solidity. This is the first rafter. I just need to get it up into place and make sure it fits perfectly. Once I know that the shape's good, I can then bring it down, use this one as a template, and then cut all the other rafters at the same time. Now I've got that first one done, I can use that as a template and just copy that for all the other rafters. I was trying to do it with a jigsaw. It's the only one of the few power tools I've got with a battery. It's not the right tool for the job. I had to crack out the generator. I try and avoid the generator. I don't like the noise and weighs a lot dragging it down here. It's just going to take forever with that jigsaw though, so firing up the generator makes things a hell of a lot faster with the right tools. Crack on.
I put the first rafter in yesterday, and you may be able to see it, but it's not perfectly straight. The reason is those beams have sort of shifted a bit since I put them up, so they're not quite square. And when you're building anything, if you don't have it square, it just creates a nightmare if you don't deal with it right from the beginning. So I'm going to try and pull this shape back into square. It's going to take a bit of force, but it will be doable. So we've got some ratchet straps. I've got my mate Daryl coming to help. He's got a chain block, which gives me loads more force. It's like a ratchet strap, but just a very powerful one. So that's the plan for today. Get everything straightened out and square. Yeah. Do we need to? I think if I wrap that onto that bit just above that nail, pretty.
Here? Stop, keep going.
Oops, we've lost the ratchet thing. Now the rear set of posts have been pulled into square, we just need to do the same thing with the front set of posts. Unfortunately, in the front, we don't have a tree to secure the ratchet straps to near enough, so my friend Daryl here is just cutting out some posts, and then he's using this huge hunk of wood to just smash the pegs into the ground. You want me to hold that post?
Oh, we've got it.
I got it, got it. It's cute, isn't it?
I'm going to put that peg in very far, but I think we need to go as far over, do it?
Not really. Now we have everything square and in place, we're ready to put the rafters up. I'm working on my own here, and at first I couldn't figure out how to get the rafters up onto the beams by myself, and then I realised that if I attach a small piece of wood and screwed it into the rafters, that gave me something to rest the rafters on, and that meant that I could get the rafters up by myself. As you can see here, I can't push the rafter far enough to get it to sit on that final beam, but I can get it far enough to sit on the little bit of wood that I just put in temporarily. Rather than measuring the distance between each rafter again and again, I found it much easier to make this jig. No measuring necessary. And it also acts as a good little block so that it gives the rafter something to rest against while you're nailing it into place. Once I realised this system worked and I could pass the rafters up by myself, it was just a question of repeating the same thing again and again. Alright, that's the rafters up. I ended up having to rush a bit really. The rain was coming, so I just put as many of the rafters on the roof as I could at one go, and then just laid them all out and got it done before the rain came, so that was cool. The next morning, with all the rafters in place, I thought it was time to put up some metal strapping. I'm putting this metal strapping up to hold the frame together, so all of these rafters could theoretically drift out of square in the wind. But putting this on, pulling it tight, and then nailing it on every single rafter means that you get a much more solid roof and the whole lot won't rack side to side. It's also a great view from up here too. It's not really clear to me how much bracing I need, but I figure more is better. So I'm making a large X brace to go on the front and the back of the bus. I'm using 2x4s here and then doubling them up in thickness so I get one 4x4 piece. As you can see, I'm mixing up roofing material here. I'm using iron for the back, which will give the bus a bit of shade, and then I'm using this clear perspex to go on the front, and that will give us some light, so we've got a nice bright deck area. I'm just adding one last piece of bracing here. I'm connecting the top corners of the structure to the ground, and that should give me a really solid structure. These are the solar panels being delivered. I ordered this as a kit, so it came with everything, batteries and inverters and all the cables and so on. If you're interested, there are programs on my channel just dedicated to the solar setup. I'm setting up a string line here to make sure that everything is exactly straight, and then marking out where I want the holes to go so I can fix on these solar panel mounts. I've just laid out the first solar mounts there, and there's just about enough of a gap for me to get around in case I need to clean them or possibly extend them to tilt them up a bit more in the winter. So now I've got to screw them in. Always feels a bit weird screwing holes into something that you've just built that's new, that's a roof, but it should be good. I've got little silicone pads with the kit, so should all be good. Right, give it a go. When you're installing solar panels, it's recommended that you tilt the panel to the sun at the same latitude that you live at. So in our case, we live at 37 degrees south, and so these panels need to be up at 37 degrees. The roof is about 10 degrees, so I'm putting these mounts on that will allow me to just bring those panels a little bit steeper and get them to 37 or thereabouts. This is my morning routine before we started using those new panels. This is just one 60-watt panel, but it was enough to charge our phones and computers.
And this morning we're going to try and get the solar panels on the roof. I say try because they're quite heavy and we may not be able to do it. We'll give it a crack, and if we can't do it, we'll have to enlist some help from elsewhere. See how we get on. Those are actually going up fairly easy. We've got the first 3 in. It's just when we were lifting it up, the wind just started to pick up. Not much, but those panels are pretty expensive and it's just not worth the risk. There's like a couple of seconds when they're pretty much out of our hands, or we've only got the very end of it when we're lifting it onto that roof. It's just too sketchy. So it'd be much easier in the mornings or the weekends. So I think I'll leave it for today.
The next morning, and there isn't a breath of wind. The perfect time to put up the rest of the panels. So the solar and the roof are finally done. It's going to be so good. We're currently living off 60 watts of power, just one 60 watt solar panel. Each one of those panels is 390 watts and there's 8 of them. So that's just over 3,000 watts of power, which is more than 50 times the amount of power we currently have, which is kind of ridiculous, but it's good to have it. So anyway, that's it for this week. Thanks so much for watching.